Sadly, as you know, many citizens are battling with unemployment, isolation, anxiety, domestic violence, and others through the impacts of COVID-19. But at the same time, we're in the middle of a national presidential election. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our special program. This is Caleb Shipperrow, joined by another special guest, Councilman John Taylor, Chapman, and Batsufakar to discuss the various topics in regards to the city of Alexandria and its residents, in particular the Ethiopian community within the city of Alexandria. Alexandria is an independent city in the Commonwealth of Virginia in the United States, located uh, around 10 miles south of downtown in Washington, D.C. Thank you for both of you for your time.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilman Chapman and Basu, thank you for both of you for joining us today. Just to give you a little background, John Taylor Chapman was elected into the city council in November 2012 and re-elected in November 2015 and November 2018. As a member of the city council, John serves on the following local and regional boards: the Local Emergency Planning Committee, Eisenhower Partnership, Board of Directors of Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Public Safety and Human Service Committee, Eisenhower Partnership Board of Directors, Eco City Alexandria Environmental Action Planning Steering Committee, Alexandria Campaign on Adolescence, Pregnancy, Sister City Committee, Gang Prevention Task Force, and the Children, Youth, and the Families Collaborative Commission. Again, thank you for both of you for joining us. My first question goes out now to Councilman Chapman. We're still under COVID-19 pandemic. I understand the city has developed and begun some implementation and strategic action plan and action framework to stop the spread of COVID-19. But can you give us just a little update on COVID-19 and what the city of Alexandria has done to help the citizen in order to prevent and combat the virus in the city of Alexandria?
Certainly. So first, let me give you the latest update from the city around kind of COVID numbers. We know, unfortunately, that positive tests were up about 18 people, and we in total have had about 4,248 people that have been infected in our city over the length of the pandemic. But we are seeing that our 7-day positivity rate is down 4.4%, and we have not had any new hospitalizations. We still do tell folks that it's safer to be at home. Make sure you're washing your hands, and make sure you're wearing your mask. One of the things that the city did implement is a mask mandate. We do ask and require folks to wear masks, especially if they're going to be in places where a number of other people are at the same time. So if you're going out to the grocery store or some other place where other residents and people are going to be, we do ask that you wear your mask. That is one of the things that we've tried to do. We also have partnered with Alexandria Health Department, Neighborhood Health Services, and some of our local health nonprofits to offer free testing. If you are looking for tests, feel free to reach out to the city. If you need to find out where to get a test from, and we can work with you to get you that resource. If you are having challenges that relate to COVID-19, such as needing assistance when it comes to paying bills or paying rent, please reach out to the city. We've been giving away housing assistance grants, as well as trying to work with a number of individuals to find new job opportunities, because as we know, many of some of the service and food-related industries have seen major closures. And so if you are in that situation, or you or somebody you know is in that situation, please reach out to us here at the city so that we can try to connect you with new opportunities. And if you're looking for rental assistance, please make sure you reach out to us We have been working with landlords for the duration of the pandemic to work with them to make sure that they are not kicking folks out due to non-payment of rent. Because we know this is a pandemic, this is something we've never seen before. So putting people out on the street, we think is wrong when everyone is struggling. One of the other things that we have been doing is planning to figure out what it's going to look like, and I think you mentioned this, what it's going to look like as we try to recover. Um, our businesses right now are hurting. The city has given over $6 million in small business grants to a number of small businesses trying to make it through the pandemic. And as we continue to reach out to our federal partners, we are continuing to ask for additional money and additional support. We do know that the state as well is having a grant process for small businesses in order to help them with some relief as well. Um, at our next council meeting, we will actually be broadcasting to the community our action plan for recovery. We don't know exactly when recovery is going to start, but what we want to do as a community is plan on how do we recover? How do we open back up businesses? How do we open back some of our services? As those parents out there know, how do we open back schools up? Our school board has been working extremely hard to implement virtual learning, but they are very interested in seeing when and how we can safely get kids back into school. And if you're a parent who has been working with your kids at home for the past 6 months, we have no doubt that you are interested in getting them back into the environment that they are more familiar with. And so we've been doing, as you can kind of tell, we've been trying to do a lot to make sure people know that the city is there and they're supporting them during this pandemic.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that brief explanation. I believe people probably would be able to just take advantage of like some of the plans that the city is offering. In particular, like you kind of mentioned the some of the assistance for small business group. As you probably aware of, many of our viewers are like the Ethiopian American or the Ethiopian community in particular, and they do own lots of small business, and but some of them do have the proper information, but some of them they don't really have the proper information. So what kind of suggestion is this? Something that's going to be like available online? So what other resources they will be able just to obtain this information?
The Alexandria Economic Development Partnership. We call them AEDP for short. They have a website that has a specific listing of grant opportunities and funding opportunities that are available for small businesses, whether it be grants through organizations like Facebook or Google, who are doing big outreach efforts to small business, whether it's some of the more localized funds, such as the state's Rebuild Virginia grants, or the city's business grants that we put out. That is going to be the one-stop shop or resource that any small business owner in the city can rely on. So ADP, again, Alexandria Economic Development Partnership. That's going to be the resource that folks need to return to.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Hey, Basu, do you have any additional comment on this, or do you have any questions?
Yeah, I've known Council Chapman now for a long time, and he really understands the Ethiopian community needs. He has been, for the last couple of years, he's been having several meetings and different businesses in the city, as well as some restaurant owners within our community. And when they coming up with this type of plans, they're really thinking about our community and how to serve them better. So my advice or recommendation for our business owners or residents within the Ethiopian community, Ethiopian American communities to always reach out to the city. The city has resources. If there's anything that they need an additional, as always reaching out is a good idea. And I've always called Council Chapman whenever I need something. He's available through text, phone. He's always available. So we do have. I want to commend him on his service to our city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Uh, yeah, this question goes out again, I think, to Councilman Chapman. Uh, yeah, as you know, we're in the middle of national presidential election, where pre-voting, has already started. Uh, you kind of mentioned some of the CDC guidelines, during this pandemic, where the city kind of like developed or adopted the wearing mask is a mandate. And so, what other suggestions you probably would have, like, for people going out, for both, for next week?
You have the opportunity, we highly suggest that you vote early. The city has opened up additional locations. We've always offered our Office of Elections down in Old Town as a voting location that's located at 132 North Rural Street. Additionally, we've also opened up Beatley Library, which is open daily from 7 a.m. to about 5 p.m. And so either one of those two locations, you can go and vote any day of the week until this Saturday. So it's only going to be open for a few more days for voting early. Your polling location will be open on November 3rd, but because of the pandemic, we are trying to get as many people to vote early so that you're not worried about your safety when you vote. We've made sure that these locations space people out, are available with a lot of sanitizer, and so that you feel safe and comfortable in voting. We do have a number of locations that we have moved around to make sure that some of the precincts are available and a little bit safer, but we do have those opportunities. For those folks, hopefully, that did mail in ballots, if you mailed in a ballot, you should have already mailed that back out at this point, because your window for getting that in and getting it counted before the end of election day is closing. And so we do have Beatley Library for you, as well as over here near City Hall, we have the Office of Elections. And those are going to be the two main places that we have voting happening here in the city.
Okay, thank you. Maybe, would you like to add,
Yes,
some additional comments regarding the Ethiopian community, if
uh,
during this voting season?
yes. This is one of the most important election of our lifetime, and it's I highly encourage as a large residents, Ethiopian American residents, voters living in the city of Alexandria, and I really encourage everyone to go out and vote and by driving taking their families and friends to the voting pool and make sure that they vote. It is critical because this election really affects as a community, as the immigrant community. There's a lot of things at stake. And we have to come out in high numbers and make our voices heard. That is our responsibility as a citizen. If you don't really exercise our vote, there's a lot of things that we can lose, from healthcare to our immigration status, to employment, and getting a lot of education, access to education, as well as a major issue. And I voted on Monday at Beatley Library, which is providing early voting station. And I highly encourage everyone to go out and vote. It is one of the most important election in a lifetime here for folks who living in the United States, as well as for the Ethiopians that living in the continent in Ethiopia. And we all heard the statement President Trump made last week in reference to the dam, and it was very irresponsible statement, and really had aggravated a lot of Ethiopians. And we have to let them know that we stand here to protect our country as well as to protect our rights as a citizen. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I believe that is one of the greatest opportunity that we should not take it for granted, and we do have to go out in a vote. So strongly encourage as well. So my next question is going to be, as you know, earlier, you mentioned some of the housing assistance grant that the city of Alexandria adopted. But in general, as you know, the affordable housing is a big issue in Northern Virginia. And do you have any plan for affordable housing in the city of Alexandria, even during
Yes,
this pandemic?
yes, we do. If folks have noticed, one of the things that really has not stopped during the pandemic is construction. And so we still have new buildings going up. We still have new housing going up. We have recently we gave a pre-development loan to one of our nonprofit affordable housing developers to construct additional housing over near Seminary Road. This multi-unit housing is going to be 100% affordable housing units, usually at about 60% AMI, and so it's really supposed to be focused on supporting working families and working individuals that need that additional support for housing. So we're doing that. We are also, if you've gone into Old Town anytime recently, one of the projects, a couple of the projects are nearing completion. One particular that I drove past recently was the Balloon. It's a 90-unit affordable housing project that is supposed to come online soon and provide additional support for folks in Alexandria. We do know that there's going to be some redevelopment happening near the Landmark area in the western part of the city as well. If you know where the Big Lots store is near Landmark, that site is going to be redeveloping, and that's going to open up some additional opportunities for affordable housing as well. And so we are still seeing construction happen, and that means there is going to be additional housing coming to Alexandria.
Okay. So, but what do you think in general, like speaking of redevelopment? So, what do you think the more important for the city right now? Is that going to be like building new homes or commercial space, or expanding, or better utilizing homes and or storefronts? So, what do you think the priority for the city of Alexandria? Could it be like your short-term plan for the next 10 years, or long-term plan? It could be like for the next 20, 30 years.
We're doing short-term planning and long-term planning. The short-term planning is going to come from right now in the pandemic, making sure people have the ability to stay in their homes. I think that's the biggest need right now. Before we get out of the pandemic, we need to make sure we're not kicking, or landlords are not kicking families into the street. And so making sure money is there for anybody that needs housing assistance. We've made sure that's the case. Folks, if they have an issue or have an issue with a landlord, they can call our office for housing and get that support and get connected that way. As you said, affordable housing particularly, was a big issue prior to the pandemic anyway. And so one of the things that we've tried to do was work with more nonprofit housing developers. Those are folks that are a lot more liberal in terms of giving more affordable housing units when they do a project. And so making sure that they are kind of our main priority in working with them is going to allow us the opportunity to have more affordable housing units here in the city versus just housing that people can't afford. And so making sure that's part of our priority is key. One of the long-term areas that we focused on was changing the dynamic when a housing developer comes to us. How many or what percentage of housing units can we get that are affordable? On average, every project that you see that goes up, Alexandria traditionally has only received about 3% affordable housing units in a project. So if you have a project that has 100 units in it, only 3 of those are going to be affordable. That is not acceptable. That has not been acceptable. And so we've been working with folks locally, but folks at the state level to get that number and that percentage changed. And so we are starting to work and improve that number. And so as we have new development come in, we have more of an opportunity to have affordable housing. And so we're seeing that with some of the more recent developments that we have.
Okay. So if you could change, one thing, in the city of Alexandria, the zoning code, so what would be and why?
Ask the question again.
So if you could change, one thing in the zoning code, and so what would that be and why?
One thing in the zoning code that I think one of the challenges we have with certain parts of the community is the zoning on height. Near our metro stations, particularly on the western part of the city, we have an opportunity to build higher. That means that you're going to allow, that's actually going to give us the opportunity to have additional affordable housing in certain parts of the city where there isn't a lot of land to build out, so you can build up. So that would be one of the changes that I would make. I also would make it easier for individual landowners, folks that may own a home, to redevelop if they wanted to improve. One of the things that we're actually looking at right now is if you own a townhome here in Alexandria, currently you could not legally have someone living in your basement. Most homes are not set up like that. But one of the things that we are looking at with the zoning code is how to change the zoning to allow for basement apartments. Right now, the term is called accessory dwelling units. And so looking at how we allow those accessory dwelling units to be a part of current development that we already have, that most homeowners already have, and allow that to be used for space is going to be useful. All of us have older parents. What happens when our parents can't live by themselves? If you have the ability to bring your parents into your home and have them in the basement or have them in some other room, that's going to not only improve your family, improve the life for your parents. And so being able to allow situations like that to naturally happen is something that we're going to have to kind of work out through the zoning code that we have to learn.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for that explanation again. Yeah, so I think that's going to be a pretty good plan, and again, I hope a lot of people would take advantage of that. And my next question is going to be is so since as I said earlier, most of our viewers may be like the Ethiopian community. So do you have any plan to involve like residents of the Ethiopian community in the decision-making process in the city of Alexandria?
One of the things
And
that
can you give me an example as well?
Yeah, so as we look at planning around the western part of the city, as we are going to be doing some additional planning around Landmark, we need to make sure that we have that community that is around Landmark involved in that planning. One of the key things that I know a number of people have been very interested in is seeing additional municipal services come out to the western part of the city. We have a school here, but there is a need for additional schools. There's additional need for additional human service departments and organizations here. We plan on opening a kind of West End Human Services Center, but we need to know exactly what we need to put in that building that is going to benefit our community, and so there's an opportunity there for that, for the community to have that input. One of the things that we've been trying to do for a long time, and I think we're going to be able to do this once the pandemic is over, is actually have council meetings out on the west end of the city, so that people can actually see and come out and be a part of some of those meetings. One of the other conversations that we're having is around transportation. What does transportation look like on the west end of the city? We are planning to build a transit way along Boulevard, but we need to continue to have resident input to see how useful that will be for getting residents around. And so there are going to be a number of opportunities that are going to be coming forward. And we also actually have a couple of council members, myself and Councilman Chapman, have been working, and I believe Councilman Chapman as well, have been working to see how we can get an office for an office that reaches directly out to some of our immigrant community, because we see that there is a need to have greater, more focused outreach when it comes to some of the bigger issues that are happening in our city. And so we've been pushing for staff, and so this budget season, hopefully that will come up again. Unfortunately, last year during the budget, that motion, that push was defeated, but we're going to continue to keep trying because we see the need is out there, particularly when you have a pandemic. The outreach that we've done in the city is good, but there's definitely ways that we can improve it. And if we have staff that are directly focused on our community, certain communities, we believe we can make that better.
Okay, appreciate for So, hey, so would you like to add, pretty much on the same question, how the
Yes.
Ethiopian community, how to increase, the involvement with the Ethiopian community in the decision-making process in the city of Alexandria?
Yeah, actually, I've been working with Councilman Chapman for the past several months to organize a meeting so that he can have face-to-face conversation with the Ethiopian community. But however, due to the COVID-19 situation, we were regulated to a Zoom meeting, or we're not able to run those meetings. But I know Councilman Chapman is very eager to talk to the community. He's actually have had several emails and texts from him indicating the desire and to speak our community in reference to everything about what our community needs, and like to have a conversation with our community. So as things settle down and when things improve, I'll make sure that Chapman have an opportunity to speak our community, and anything starting from schools to business to the community centers that our community needs. And we'll have that conversation, and I'll definitely let everyone, and especially ESAT, know when we have those meetings arranged in the near future.
Okay, thank you. So my next question, goes to Councilman Chapman. As you probably know that since this pandemic, one of the challenge is to treat mental health patients. And do you consider or hiring like additional staff, like behavioral health professional to serve the law enforcement officers? And do you have any budget cuts to help in the pandemic shortfalls?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually one of the bigger topics when we had a city council meeting last night. We talked about having mental health professionals working with our police officers and as they respond to different calls in the city, because not every call necessarily needs a police officer. They might need a mental health professional instead. We have seen a rise in some of those incidents, and so we have a new model that we are rolling out, working with our police and what we call our Community Service Board and our Health and Human Services to make sure that we have the staff that's needed. They are going to be looking at additional staff, and that's probably going to come through our budget process, but that is something that we are going to do.
Okay, thanks. Maybe, would you like to add some more on this? Just because this is something like associated, we do have like very similar, challenging, within the Ethiopian community alone. So, do you have any experience, and have you heard like the numbers has been increasing of this during this pandemic?
Yes, I mean, it's one of those within our community. It's one of those taboo situations where people will not talk about it. But I encourage our community to engage with the city, to engage with health professionals, and seek help when it's necessary and when they need it. I think there's enough resource within city of Alexandria, but if they don't know the issue, or if people don't reach out to them, they might not be aware of it. So my recommendation is that they should reach out to community leaders, the media, or even more particularly to the city, so that those issues are addressed properly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. So, as you probably know, DC has a sister city in connection with the Ethiopia capital, Addis Ababa. You probably know that. And what does the city of Alexandria, to establish a city agreement with one of the Ethiopian city? Have you done anything, or do you have any plan for that?
About it last night. In January, I'm going to be bringing forward my recommendations to the City Council about additional sister city agreements that we should be looking at. And so, in the meantime, I'm going to be reaching out to a number of people to talk about some of the different opportunities out there, because there was discussion last night directly about the Ethiopian community and making sure one of those sister cities reflects the community that we have here, and making that connection. And so we'll be doing that and bringing that to City Council in June.
Okay, thank you. Basu, you probably have experience on these, from some other like similar cities that have like sister city connection. Would you like to add some more on this?
Yes, actually, a couple of group of us within the Ethiopian American community living here in Alexandria City, I've sent an email to early in January, or maybe late last year, to the mayor and Councilman Chapman, and a particular interest on establishing a sister city within one of Ethiopian cities. My particular choice is Dabra Brahan, in reference from the city location of from Addis Ababa. It's distance, and it could be comparable. I know Silver Spring has a sister city with Gondar, and other cities from the United States have also a relationship within the other cities in Ethiopia. So we're exploring that opportunity. We're working on it right now. But we'll follow up with Councilman Chapman to establishing that relationship within like I said, my choice is the city of Alexandria, and Deborah Brahan city will be a great fit, but we'll entertain all suggestions as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think so. That's all I have. But I would like just to give you the opportunity just to provide us like some kind of final remarks in case if I have not touched any topics. So you're very welcome just to address that as well, Councilman. I will begin with you.
All right, thank you very much. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to not only take questions but also speak with you and the community tonight. It is very important, particularly now during this pandemic, that we make sure, and I say we, the city and city officials, make sure that we're reaching out to all parts of our community to make sure that they are engaged, they have information that they need, and they have the resources that they need. And so if anybody has any Any questions, I am available, as Sue said. I'm available for any questions to help folks work through any bureaucratic issues with the city or any challenges. I can help there as well. The one thing he also said, and I will copy this, is please make sure you vote. That's the most important thing that you can do in this next week. Either go to the early voting site that we have, or on November 3rd, go to your polling location and cast your vote. This is the most important election that we've seen in our generation. So we need you, we need everyone here in the city making sure that they not only vote, but also make sure their friends and their family vote as well.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Basu, do you have a final remark?
I just want to say thank you for ESAT having us, and thank you for Councilman Chapman for his, dedication and his effort to learn more about our community, for reaching out the Ethiopian community, and for your service. We appreciate it and thank you, and we look forward working with you as a community and develop our relationship as we move forward. And for the Ethiopian community. I want to stress this is the most important election in our lifetime. It matters that everyone goes out and votes, especially we've seen what happened in the last 4 years. Our community has been affected by it, and it's important that everyone goes out and vote. I personally support Biden and Harris, so I encourage everybody to go out and vote. Thank you very much.
All right. I really appreciate both of you, in particular, Councilman Chapman. Thank you so much for your public service, and thank you so much for your time. And really appreciate you're giving us the opportunity just to express some of the questions that our Ethiopian community may have, and some of the concerns they have. I believe you covered most of the areas, and I'm hoping we'll have you back again. And again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate. Thank you, Basu.
Thank you.
With that, we'll end our today's discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both of you.